My parents never seemed to understand me. They always favored my adoptive sister over me. 15 years later, I decided to leave them behind. I was raised with a sense of confusion. For reasons I never understood, my parents decided to adopt a girl. She was a year younger than me, but she was incredibly demanding and manipulative, always getting whatever she wanted. A clever schemer, she began to systematically isolate me from my own family. We'll call her Stephanie. Despite our family struggles, Stephanie constantly made demands, and my parents always gave in. I never received gifts for Christmas or Thanksgiving, but she always got the latest toys or a Game Boy. My frustration built up. Why did she get gifts and I didn't? My parents always gave the same excuse. Stephanie had a tough childhood. She deserves better. She knew this and used it to her advantage. One of my favorite places was the local pizza restaurant, but hers was McDonald's. Somehow, she always managed to convince my parents to take us to McDonald's instead. The final straw came on my 16th birthday. It had been years since I'd had a proper birthday party with friends because I was embarrassed by our home. But this year, my parents decided to treat me and plan a party. It was supposed to be at my beloved pizza place, and all my school friends were invited. In the days leading up to it, Stephanie threw tantrums and caused a scene. I should have seen the signs. She was clearly planning to ruin my day. When my birthday arrived, everything seemed to be going smoothly until they brought out the cake. It was a chocolate cake, which I hated. But Stephanie loved chocolate. When I questioned the choice, my parents explained, Stephanie's birthday is next month, so we thought we'd celebrate both at once. She already talked to you, and you said you were fine with it. Furious, I snapped at Stephanie. How could you lie and ruin my birthday? Could you not have let me have just one day? My humiliation was made worse because the scene happened in front of all my friends. Stephanie played the innocent victim, saying, "But we talked about it, and you agreed. Why are you yelling at me? Dear brothers? We had never discussed this." But my parents then decided I didn't deserve a party because of my behavior. They kicked me out of my own celebration. I sat in the car, watching through the window as Stephanie gleefully cut the cake that should have been mine. My friends tried to protest, but they were kicked out too. That was it. I decided I would no longer stay with this toxic family. I spoke with my teacher, who gave me extra time with schoolwork so I could work more and save money. I saved diligently for 2 years. A friend's relative, a landlord, offered me a cheap one-bedroom apartment in a nearby city. I also secured a scholarship to a university nearby. I was ready to move out on my 18th birthday. When the big day came, I was anxious. Part of me worried that if they tried to make it up to me, I might soften. But they didn't even acknowledge my birthday. It was a public holiday, so I waited, hoping someone would remember. Finally, I gave up and went to my room to finish packing. I wasn't taking much, just 2 manageable bags. I called a friend's older brother for a ride and went downstairs. My parents were shocked to see me leaving with my bags. I simply told them I was moving out. They erupted, blaming me for not discussing it with them. I reminded them that they had forgotten my birthday, that it was today, and that I was now 18 and could do whatever I wanted. They replied, their voices dripping with sarcasm, "We didn't forget. We're celebrating your birthday with Stephanie's next month. Go to your room. You're grounded for a week." I was stunned. I was turning 18, a major milestone, while Stephanie was about to turn 17, yet they focused on a child who wasn't even biologically theirs. I flipped them off and said, an adult can do whatever they want. Finally, the reality of my departure hit them. My mother started crying. "How can you abandon your loving family? How can you do this to us?" I told her the truth. The family disappeared when I was 8. "You abandoned me. You have a new daughter, Stephanie, and I was discarded." With that, I walked out, tears streaming down my face. They followed me, but the car was waiting, and I was gone before they could catch me. I blocked their numbers, and they had no way to reach me. I was finally free. But that wasn't the end of the story. The best part was yet to come. 5 years later, I was still living in that modest apartment, thriving in college and about to graduate with honors. Job offers were already rolling in. One day, I received a call from an unknown number. Curious, I answered. It was my mother, sobbing. She said she had been searching for me for years. She had traced me through the friend who helped me move. After 5 years, I had moved on, so I was more open to hearing from her. We spoke briefly on the phone and agreed to meet. I refused to give her my address, so she arranged for us to meet at my favorite pizza place. I had to drive quite a distance, but I wasn't giving away my location. When they arrived, my mother and father, they started with small talk, but I soon realized they weren't going to address the real issue. I told them I expected an apology. They looked shocked. An apology? For what? They asked. Then they claimed I owed them an apology for leaving without notice. This time, I didn't get angry. I just listened. My mother explained that they had bought Stephanie a car for her 20th birthday, and now they were drowning in debt. They said they had contacted me for money they would likely spend on Stephanie. Fortunately, I had connections at university, including someone who could print counterfeit money. I told them I would send cash. They embraced me, saying I was doing the right thing, hinting that this was their apology. I just smiled. The following week, I sent them thousands of dollars, all counterfeit. I had a feeling I knew what they would do with it, and I was right. They gave it all to Stephanie, who, in her infinite wisdom, took it to a casino. While my parents faced no consequences, Stephanie was caught and arrested. I blocked their numbers again and enjoyed a relaxing spa weekend with my wonderful girlfriend. Jail for Stephanie. That was pure joy for me. 5 years after the casino fiasco, my life was fantastic. My girlfriend and I were blissfully happy, and my career was flourishing. But predictably, my family resurfaced. One afternoon, the phone rang. Curious, I answered. It was my mother, crying and begging for help. Stephanie was out of jail but buried in debt from the casino lawsuit. My parents were about to lose their house and were desperate. I listened as my mother tried to guilt me into helping, claiming it was my duty as a son. Unsurprisingly, the entire plea was to benefit Stephanie, the same person who had stolen my birthday and years of affection. Now, she was the cause of their downfall. Fury surged within me, but I kept my composure. This was my chance to end this saga once and for all. I agreed to meet them to discuss how I could help. They grasped at this slim hope, convinced I would revert to being the obedient son. We met at the rundown family home, my final visit. The house was a mess, reflecting their lives. Stephanie sat on the couch, her usual arrogant demeanor still intact, as if she still had control. I laid out my terms. I would provide financial help, but they had to transfer ownership of the house to me. I explained it was just a formality to ensure a smooth debt settlement. Desperate, they agreed without hesitation, signing the papers without a second thought, believing they were securing their salvation. With the contract signed, I made my final move. That night, I filed an eviction notice for illegal occupancy. The next day, the police arrived with the eviction order. The shock and despair on my mother's face were priceless. My father tried to argue, but it was futile. They were legally evicted. For once, Stephanie had no recourse. They were forced to leave with nothing but the clothes on their backs, homeless, penniless, and alone. As a final touch, I bought the biggest chocolate cake I could find, took a picture, and sent it to my mother's new number with a message. Now you have something to celebrate. I blocked them permanently. I later heard that they were living on the streets, begging. Stephanie tried to work, but her arrogance caused her to lose every job quickly. My parents reached out to relatives, but no one wanted anything to do with them. The perfect family that had scorned me was now facing the consequences of their actions. Meanwhile, my life continued to improve. My girlfriend and I bought a house, and my financial consulting business thrived. Each day reaffirmed that I didn't need them, that my happiness was my own. I sometimes smile, remembering how it all unfolded. It wasn't just revenge, it was justice. They made their choices, and now they were living with the consequences. I had finally found peace. Years later, I can confidently say I live a better life than I ever could have imagined. I am at peace with my decisions. There are zero regrets. I feel nothing for them. No anger, no sadness, no guilt. They are strangers, ghosts of a past I've left behind. My partner and I have built not just a comfortable life, but a strong relationship founded on mutual respect and understanding, something I never knew with my parents or Stephanie. We own a beautiful home, and my business is thriving. Severing ties with that toxic past was the key to my happiness. People sometimes ask if I feel any remorse for not helping them, or if I wonder how they are. The answer is simple: no. It's not about being callous. It's about acceptance. They made their choices, prioritizing Stephanie and discarding me. I simply made the same choice when I had the chance. They ceased being my family long before I walked away. We're often taught to forgive, especially family. That family is everything and we should endure abuse and neglect in the name of love. But I learned the hard way that love isn't an obligation, it's a choice. And when that love is conditional or absent, there's no reason to cling to unmet expectations. The counterfeit money wasn't just revenge, it was a declaration of independence. It was the final severing of the remaining thread between us. Watching them crumble was the closure I needed. I don't take pleasure in their destitution, but I don't grieve it either. They chose their path, and I chose mine. There's no room for regret or second-guessing. If I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing. I did what I needed to protect myself and create the life I deserved. It was a difficult but necessary decision, and the results speak for themselves. I have peace, financial security, emotional stability, and a loving partner. True freedom wasn't just escaping a toxic family, it was releasing myself from the need to feel anything for them at all. I am free from their expectations, their guilt, and the phantom bond that never truly existed. My past is a distant learning experience. My parents and Stephanie are merely memories, shadows with no power over me. I live my life fully knowing I did nothing wrong. I did what I had to survive and flourish. I chose myself, and that was the best choice I ever made.